This iconic dish is all about the details. French toast might look super simple to make, but looks can be deceiving. French toast is crispy on the outside, that silky custard on the inside. It's just so indulgent and delicious. What's not to love? So over the last couple of weeks, we've eaten a ton of butter and bread and syrup to find out what makes the best classic French toast recipe. French toast is only as good as its bread, so that's where we'll start. There are a ton of options out there, and we tested a bunch of them. For French toast, we want to use a bread that's both sturdy on the outside and spongy and tender on the inside. Something like a brioche, challah, or white bread. We also tested milk bread, Hawaiian bread, and sourdough, but found they really altered the flavor profile of the dish. Ultimately, challah was our favorite. We don't recommend buying a pre-sliced loaf because we want our slices to be the perfect thickness. If they're too thin, they'll fall apart with the weight of the custard. But if they're too thick, it'll be difficult to cook the custard all the way through, and nobody wants raw custard. We think about 1 inch to 1.5 inches is the perfect thickness. Now, this next part might seem counterintuitive, but we don't want to use fresh bread. We want it to be at least a day old. Using fresh bread will result in dense and soggy toast. But don't worry if you need French toast right now and your bread isn't ready. Just bake your slices at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes to dry them out, and then you'll be ready to make your custard. The custard is really where the magic happens when it comes to French toast. The perfect custard creates a crispy exterior with a silky rich interior. If you use too much milk or a lot of sugar in your custard, the egg won't cook and you'll get wet and soggy toast. So a good rule we follow is that for about every 1/4 cup of dairy, we use 1 large egg. For our recipe, we'll be using 6 large eggs. It's important to thoroughly whisk the eggs so you don't end up with clumps of egg whites in your custard that will ruin an otherwise perfectly golden brown piece of toast. Then we'll add our milk, heavy cream, brown sugar, and salt. Finally, we're going to add our seasoning. Seasoning your custard is crucial. Now you can definitely get fancy with it by adding things like cardamom, orange zest, nutmeg, cloves, ginger, lemon zest, or even liqueurs. But we found that less is more when it comes to seasoning. So we're just adding a little cinnamon and some vanilla paste. You can totally make this with vanilla extract, but we think it's worth the upgrade to use vanilla bean paste. It just packs a bigger vanilla punch, and it's still cheaper than vanilla beans. We'll whisk all of our custard ingredients together until it's well combined. Remember, we don't want any egg clumps. Now that our custard's ready, let's add our bread. We want to make sure the custard completely soaks the bread, but we don't want to soak it for so long that it begins to disintegrate. Yeah, it's just super gross. So we'll soak the bread until it begins to feel heavy in our hands and completely saturated throughout. This could mean anywhere from 20 seconds to a minute on each side. Now that our bread has taken a little custard bath, it's time to cook. We tested several methods. Your cast iron has to be seasoned super well or your bread will end up sticking to the pan. The oven is a great method for making big batches, but doesn't get the crispy edges we want in a truly great French toast. So ultimately, we love using a non-stick electric griddle. It distributes heat evenly across its entire surface, and it's also big enough to cook large batches of toast at a time. But if you don't have a griddle, a non-stick pan works just as well. Now, to get a golden brown crispy toast, it's crucial to preheat whatever pan you choose. By preheating the pan, the custard will begin to cook immediately. If the pan's cold from the start, the custard will spread to form a foot, something like this, on the bottom of the toast. We recommend preheating your pan before you start making your custard. Once our pan is hot enough, we'll lightly grease it with a pat of butter. Or something a little more than a pat. We like our butter here at Tasty. Once all of that butter is melted, we'll place the soaked toast on the pan and let it cook undisturbed until the bottom is golden brown, which takes about 2 minutes. Then we'll flip and repeat on the other side. Ooh, she's pretty. Just look at how crispy and golden brown that is. Make sure to keep an eye on your heat as you cook. If it's too high, the sugar in the custard will burn before the custard is cooked through all the way in the middle. Once your toast is looking beautiful, we'll remove it from the pan. And here's a little tip. Wipe your pan between batches to make sure the butter doesn't continue to cook and leave burnt patches on the remaining toast. Now that we've whipped up perfect golden brown, crispy toast, it's time to serve. You can really get creative with the toppings for this. Use whipped cream, chocolate syrup, sprinkles, bananas. You can go wild. But we think that less is more. We love to serve ours with a pat of butter and some maple syrup. Did you know that there's a difference between pure maple syrup and pancake syrup? Pancake syrup is actually made with corn syrup and maple flavoring. It's definitely a more affordable and shelf-stable alternative. But if you can splurge, we love using warm, pure maple syrup. Drizzle that right over the top of your toast, and if you want to get fancy with it, finish with a little flaky sea salt. The sea salt really complements the sweetness in the custard and syrup. We like to add a little pop of color, so we'll serve ours with a mix of berries. We're just using our favorites here. And we're done! All that's left to do now is enjoy your work of art with your friends and your family on a wonderful brunch afternoon, or just indulge by yourself. Either way, if you loaf this recipe, you can find it and many more on our website at tasty.co. What's that thing that you put on French toast?
Syrup.
Are you saying syrup?
How do you say it?
Bro, it's syrup.
I think people say it like me.